Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. This is a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. The most important news and editorial of the day, that is relevant for prelims and mains examination perspective, will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 9th of August. The first important news, that is Electricity Amendment Bill 2022 introduced in the Lok Sabha. Second, Lok Sabha passes bill to set up the carbon market. Third, Centre plan to score dailies for the public grievances. Second last, that is Russia suspend inspections of the arms under the US treaty. We'll see what is the treaty and why Russia has cancelled this. And finally, the last editorial, that is a launch of National Tribal Health Mission. Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions, and these questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And before that, if you are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do not forget to press a like button. So the first news of the day, that is Electricity Amendment Bill 2022, which was recently passed or basically introduced in the Lok Sabha. It has been introduced in the Lok Sabha, relevant for General Studies Paper 2, that is Government Policies and Intervention for the Development of Various Sectors and Issues Arising from its Design and Implementations. So recently, the Union Minister for Power and Renewable Energy has introduced the Electricity Amendment Bill 2022 in the Lok Sabha to amend the 2003 statute on the subject of electricity, right? And the minister has also moved motions for referring the bill to the Standing Committee Parliament for scrutiny. Why it was referred? Because opposition has demanded some of the scrutinization that is essentially required, because कुछ concern raise की गई है इस बिल को लेकर के. We'll understand that in the later part of the video. Now, something more about the bill. This is precisely going to be important for your prelims examination and the mains examination. Even UPSC tend to ask a direct question on the mains. So the Electricity Amendment Bill 2022 that seeks to give multiple player open access to the distribution of network for the power. तो सिंगल एक या दो डिस्कॉम की जगह मल्टीपल प्लेयर्स होंगे. जिस तरह से आप इंटरनेट सर्विसेज में टेलीफोन के लिए मल्टीपल ऑप्शंस हैं आपके पास, आप ऑपरेटर चूज कर सकते हैं, उसी तरह से ऑप्शंस होगी यहाँ पे मल्टीपल ऑपरेटर्स चूज करने के, राइट. सो द बिल एक्चुअली passed in the both houses. Customers will be have options to choose the supplier of electricity, just like you can choose your telephone, mobile and internet services. But इस चीज की वजह से और भी कंसर्न रेज की गई है that how the competition will arise in the electricity sectors. So some amendment that was proposed under this bill. So among them, first is section 14. What is section 14? We'll see what are the changes, important changes that has been made. Section 14 क्या है? It also seeks to amend the section 14 Act, which facilitate the use of distribution network by all licensee under the provisions of non-discriminatory open access with an objective of enabling competitions, enhancing efficacies, distributions for improving the services, ensuring sustainability of the power sector. This is what the government has quoted, right? But again, opposition has some other point to state. Now article basically there's section 42. इसमें basically ये बताया गया है that this will facilitate the non-discriminatory open access to the distributions of network for a distributee license. Section 62 और section 146 है. Section 62 की बात करें, it seeks to amend to make provisions vis-a-vis graded revisions in the tariff over a year, besides mandatory fixing the maximum ceiling, right? जो minimum और maximum ceiling होगी tariffs की, वो decide की जाएगी by the appropriate commissions, and it provide for amending section 166 to strengthen the functioning and discharge of the regulatory bodies. What is 146? 4 sections में changes की गई. This is the last section among that. So among 146, the rate of punishment and imprisonment for the fine has been converted. The bill tabled has also section 152 to facilitate the decriminalizing of the offense, and it would be mandatory to एक्सेप्ट द कंपाउंडिंग, जो जो फाइन पेनाल्टी के तौर पे लगाई जाएगी उसकी कंपाउंडिंग इफेक्ट्स भी होंगे. Now, some of the concern that was raised by the opposition ने specifically किस चीज़ पे concern raise किए. So they said that the electricity is a subject which is listed on the concurrent list, and this is the reason, the nature of this. The center was bounded duly to decide and basically discuss this matter with the state, right? But there was no consultation that was made with the state government. This is what the opposition has raised a concern. And the opposition also concerned that allowing multiplayer companies, जो multiple private companies होंगे provide खास करके electricities में, will have a provision that could lead to the privatizations of the profits and even the nationalization of the losses. This is what they have quoted. This will become more a private players, and even the services that is essentially required would not be provided. So they rather want कि यहाँ पे privatization की ज़्यादा ज़रूरत नहीं है. Now, the Lok Sabha passes bill to set up the carbon market. This is again relevant for your prelims examination. Important for General Studies paper 3, that is conservation, environmental pollutions, degradation, and EIA. So recently the Lok Sabha has passed the Energy Conservation Amendment Bill 2022, which provides for the establishment of carbon credit market, also known as CCM, right? And brings the residential building under the energy conservation regime. So it's a big reform amid the COP26 की जो मीटिंग हुई है उसके बाद इंडिया के जो कमिटमेंट है, प्राइम मिनिस्टर हैज ऑलरेडी सेट 5 goals under the Panchamrit. So these are in line of that only because government is committed to give its stand on the international forum also. Now, mandate of the bill की अगर बात करें, the bill mandate to use of the non-fossil resources, क्या क्या चीज़ें important है वो आप ज़रूर नोट करते चलें. The bill mandate the use of non-fossil resources including the green hydrogen, green ammonia, biomass, ethanol for energy and food stocks, right? Feedstock actually. तो फीड स्टॉक्स के लिए और एनर्जी की प्रोडक्शंस के लिए सारे ग्रीन सोर्सेज के यूज़ किए जाएंगे जो कि नॉन फॉसिल सोर्सेज हैं. Now the bill amend the Energy Conservation Act of 2001, which called for establishment of the carbon market, enhance the scope of Energy Conservation Building Code, amend the penalty provisions, increase the number of members of the Governing Council, जो GC है उसके membership को बढ़ाई जाएगी of the Bureau of Energy Efficiencies. Now what is the objective of this bill? So first and foremost, that bill introduces the new concept of carbon trading. अगर कार्बन ट्रेडिंग की बात की जाए, ये नई कॉन्सेप्ट यहाँ पे इंट्रोड्यूस की गई है and mandates that non-fossil resources to ensure the faster decarbonization of Indian economy and to achieve a sustainable development. Right? SD is something which India has been vocal about. तो जो सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स हैं उसके लाइन खास करके जो पेरिस एग्रीमेंट्स हैं उसके बेसिकली जो कोर एसेंस है उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करना क्लाइमेट चेंज. Now this will help to reduce the fossil fuel based energy consumptions and result in carbon emissions to the atmosphere. So definitely जो Paris climate change के जो core essence थे, and even for COP26, India is obliged to basically implement all the provisions. Now the Energy Conservation Amendment Bill 2022 seeks to mandate the use of non-fossil sources, जो मैंने आपको पहले बताया, green hydrogen, green ammonia, biomass, ethanol, to feed energy and feedstock, right, and to establish a carbon market. Now, carbon credit की अगर बात करें, this is again very important point. So, as far as carbon credit is concerned, the Ministry of Power has clarified that the carbon credit would not be exported and would have to be used domestically, right? And the minister said that India has already made a commitment in COP21 and COP26 that it will not allow the export of the credits. Now the other news, that is Center plan to score dailies for the public grievances, something relevant for General Studies paper 2 under the topic important aspects of governance, transparency, accountability and e-governance. So the Ministry of Personal Public Grievances and Pensions have informed the Parliament that the Parliamentary Standing Committee via Parliament that the government is working to develop a technological solutions for automatically registering the grievances that is published in the newspaper on the social media platform on the centralized public grievances redressal monitoring system, right? तो गवर्नमेंट ने ऑलरेडी इस तरह की सिस्टम बनाई हुई है, तो जो भी ग्रीवांसेस न्यूज़पेपर में या फिर सोशल मीडिया में रिपोर्ट किए जाएंगे वो ऑटोमेटिकली पब्लिक ग्रीवांस जो ग्रीवांस की रिड्रेसल मॉनिटरिंग सिस्टम है, जो पोर्टल है, उन पे ऑटोमेटिकली अपलोड की जाएंगी, राइट? So the Department of Administrative Reform and Grievances informed the parliamentary panel that in 2016 all ministries, organization, department were requested to examine the grievances column जो है न्यूज़पेपर के और वहाँ से चीज़ों को पिक करें. They should review it as essentially जो भी redressal के लिए actions लेने हैं वो उसको वो करें. But again they are coming with more upgradation system where the same will be uploaded in the centralized public redressal and monitoring system. Now, what is centralized public grievances redressal and monitoring system? So this system is an online platform available to the citizen round the clock all the day and to lodge their grievances over the service delivery of the public authorities. So this is something, a transparency which is being promoted via this portal. And even if you're writing something in essay paper, आप ethics के पेपर में, essay पेपर में ये सारी चीज़ों को example के तौर पे यूज़ कर पाएंगे. Now, need for mechanism is essentially required. So the Department of Administrative Reform has informed the ministries and department to take cognizance of the complaint and publish this in the newspaper and the social media. However, a structured mechanism is yet to take place because the system is being developed और उसमें जो खास करके टेक्नोलॉजिकल अपग्रेडेशंस हैं वो भी चल रही हैं. The panel said that at the time, again, underlined the role of newspaper and the sources for the public grievances. At the time, the newspaper bring light unheard grievances and underprivileged sections to the vulnerable group. ऐसे कई लोग हैं जो directly reach out नहीं कर सकते, उनके पास options और ज़्यादा खुलेंगे. Now, according to the committee, Strong feels that there should be an effective mechanism and each ministries and department picking up the process for the newspaper grievances, right? Already Government of India, or you can say the Department of Administrative Reform and Public Grievances has been working with the team of Indian Institute of Technology Kanpur, जो IIT कानपुर के बेसिकली टीम है उनके साथ काम कर रही है ताकि इस पूरे सिस्टम को जल्दी से एस्टैब्लिश किया जा सके. So moving to the other important news, that is Russia suspend inspection of strategic arm under the US treaty, right? So this important news is relevant for General Studies paper 2, that is bilateral regional grouping and agreement involving developed and developing countries. So in a retaliation measures towards United States, Russia has recently decided to suspend on-site inspections under the Strategic Arm Control Treaty, which was signed between Russia and United States, right? So Russia Foreign Minister has said that the facility are subject to inspections under the New START Treaty, which will be temporarily exempted from any kind of inspections by the US authorities. Now, the announcement comes to as a ties between the Russia and US annual, जहाँ पे अभी रिसेंट में फरवरी के महीने में रशिया ने यूक्रेन पे इन्वेड किया है. इस वजह से रशिया ने भी, खास करके अगर यूएस की बात करें, दे हैव टेकन सम ऑफ द इकोनॉमिक सैंक्शंस मेजर और उसी के रिटेलिएशन में रशिया ने अभी जो सैंक्शंस हैं, खास करके जो इंस्पेक्शंस हैं, उनको पूरी तरह से सस्पेंड कर दिया. द रशिया सेज दैट इट हैज़ halted the inspection under the New START Treaty, but it will remain committed to all other provisions of the treaty. Now, what is New START Treaty? So it's a nuclear arm reduction treaty between the United States and Russia. तो US और रशिया फेडरेशन के बीच में एक ये treaty है which call for the measures of further reductions and limitation of the strategic offensive arms. This entered into 2011. Actually, this was signed in 2010, but finally ये 2011 में enforce की गई. The New START Treaty last remaining arms reductions past week, the Cold War rival, and cap 1550 the number of nuclear warheads that can be deployed by Moscow and Washington, that is Russia and United States. Last year, Russia and United States extended the New START Treaty by maximum allowing the term for the 5 years, right? So this is again relevant for all the aspirants who are having PSIR as an option. उन बच्चों के लिए ये न्यूज़ काफ़ी ज़्यादा relevant है. Now moving to the editorial of the day, that is the launch of National Tribal Health Mission. This is relevant for General Studies Paper 2, that is welfare schemes for the vulnerable section of the population by the center and the state. So what I'm going to discuss under this editorial, there are three important subheads that I'll be discussing. First is the scheduled tribal populations, right? Finding of the state India's tribal health and the roadmap. So the entire editorial focuses upon a theme called National Tribal Health Mission. So for the first time since the independence, since 1947, right? This is for the first time that a tribal president has become a reality in our country, right? And the very positive signal is given to the tribal people in the country across the globe. सिर्फ इंडिया में नहीं, पूरे विश्व भर में ये जो रिप्रेजेंटेशन है, खास करके जो एसटीज कम्युनिटीज़ हैं, उनके लिए काफ़ी मोटिवेटिंग फैक्टर्स हैं. इवन इट कॉल फॉर अ सोशल एम्पावरमेंट सिग्नल्स. Now, talking about the scheduled tribe population, as per the census of 2011, there are nearly 11 crore tribal people living in India, and they constitute around 8.6% of India's population and the second largest number of tribal population in any country in the world. Again, a factual information, even you can use this in the mains examination. Now, a study that was published in the Lancet, what it has highlighted, the Lancet studies has highlighted. The Lancet study was titled as Indigenous and Tribal People Health, found that India is the second highest. India is the second highest infant mortality rate, the tribal population, next only to Pakistan, which is definitely not an honorable position and it's a concern that government should definitely work upon. Now, findings of the state of India tribal people health की अगर बात करें, in 2018 the first national report on the state of the tribal people was published and it was submitted to the government of India, right? And the expert committee on the health, right? A 13-member committee was jointly appointed by the Ministry of Health, Family Welfare and the Tribal Affairs of the Government of India. So the editor is the chairman, right? Editor just editor को मैं जो article मैं आपके साथ discuss कर रहा हूँ, this is written by the chairman of this particular committee. So he has given some few recommendations to the government of India, right? तो क्या क्या recommendations हैं वो देखते हैं, and these recommendations are relevant for your mains examination also. So firstly, the tribal people are concentrated in 809 block in India, and such area are designated as the schedule area, right? इन areas को schedule area कहते हैं. However, more unexpected finding was that half of the India tribal population, nearly 5.5 crore, outside the schedule areas scattered and marginalized minorities. So these are some of the factual reality and they are most powerless because जो representations है governance में वो काफ़ी low है. Now the second, that is the health status of the tribal people has certainly improved during the last 25 years as seen in the decline in under 5-year mortality, which is like 135 in 1998 और National Family Health Survey के मुताबिक this is 57 in 2014. However, जो percentage of excess under 5 mortality among ST compared to the other has widened. Third is the child malnutrition. This is 50% higher in tribal children and 42% compared to 28% in other. Now, fourth recommendation was that malaria and tuberculosis are 3 to 11 times more among the tribal people, right? Though the tribal people constitute only 8.6% of the national population, half of the malaria death occur in India is among them. तो ये नंबर आपके लिए काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है. टोटल ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशन वर्ल्ड में अगर बात करें, दिस इज ओनली 8.6%, right? Now, fifth, that while malnutrition, malaria, and mortality continues to plague the people gradually, more difficult like अगर बात करें non-communicable disease such as hypertension, diabetics, mental health, and other problem like depressions, cancer, and suicide are also increasing among the ST community. And these threaten the health and survival of the tribal adults. Sixth, the recommendations that, or the observation, that the tribal people heavily depend on the government run aid institutions, जो कि government provided hospitals हैं, health machinery, उन पे वो उनकी dependence काफ़ी ज़्यादा होती है, and such primary health centers are very low. There are only 27 to 40% deficit in the number of such facilities and 33 to 84% deficit in the medical doctors in the tribal area. So government healthcare tribal people is starved with fund and the human resources. The fund और human resources दोनों की scarcity बताई गई है, right? The seventh, that is hardly any participations of the tribal people in locally and national level, and is designing the planning delivery to healthcare of them, right? तो governance में उनकी participations काफ़ी low है, which is again not basically providing these people to the mainstream politics or governance process. Now, what is the roadmap? How to overcome? What should be the way forward? So if you're writing in mains specifically, आप इस तरह से keynote से end कर सकते हैं. That the roadmap include a large number of recommendations, but there are three important broad recommendations. कौन-कौन से तीन recommendations हैं? First, there should be a national tribal health action plan with a goal being the status of the healthcare at par with the respective average state in the next 10 years. तो जो recommendations दी गई है उसकी implementation अभी तक government ने की है, and even the tribal people are willing that government will definitely implement this. Now, the president is a tribal belonging to a tribal community, so this is the right time and the need of the hour is to implement the tribal health action plan, right? Now, the second, that the committee suggested that nearly 80 measures to address the 10 priorities basically on the health and health gap and the human resource gap for the governance problem. And third but not the least, that the committee suggested allocations of additional money per capita government health expenditure on the tribal people become equal to the stated goal of the national health policy, which is close to 2.5% of the GDP. So this need to be implemented at the earliest, and even the government and the President of India need to rethink about this, because the recommendation which was already given by the expert committee was researched a lot. So the fruitful decision will be this, that it is actually implemented. जो findings की गई है उसको actual में implement किया जाए, then only this can be practically possible to improve the lifestyle and the conditions of the tribal people. Now moving ahead with the MCQ questions of the day, before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. For first question, the correct option is A. For second question also, the correct option is C. For first it's A, second for C. Now consider the following statement regards the Maitru Setu project. It symbolizes the bilateral relationship and friendly ties between India and Sri Lanka. The project is being taken by the Land Port Authority of India. So do check it out for the correct options. Second, District 2 is between which among the following countries? India, Sri Lanka, India, Japan, India, Afghanistan, or India, Uzbekistan. So do check it out for the correct option. This was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis, followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video. I should fuck her in the Benz.